Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is a controversial bill. It has to do with an older law under statutes that has to do with what happens when there is a dead baby from a pregnancy that has gone badly. What this amendment does is it restates what I believe is some unclear, or maybe clear and not in a great way, language in the underlying bill about local coroners still having the authority to review what happens when there's a pregnancy loss, when there's a dead baby. There are other elements of the bill that are concerning, but this narrow amendment makes it clear that the local coroner still has jurisdiction to handle these unfortunate situations when they occur. Please vote yes.
Remarks, Representative Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good amendment. Please vote yes. That last line reading was a little misleading. This actually says that the investigation cannot be used for a criminal prosecution, and that the investigation made by the local authority, a coroner or a medical examiner, is strictly to determine the cause of death in the baby and would not be used for any criminal prosecution. Again, as we've discussed on this floor, these amendments, the several, and this one in particular, restore existing authority under current law to the local jurisdiction, the coroner or unappointed or contracted medical examiner. Mr. Speaker, we have heard repeatedly concern that somehow maintaining existing law would be weaponized. One is not clear how it would be weaponized or exactly what that means. But this amendment would make it clear that the local jurisdiction's investigation into the death of the baby would be solely to determine the cause of death and specifically exclude any criminal prosecution from the scope and purpose of that investigation. Mr. Speaker, if we are going to be for life, we have to protect the vulnerable.
Please do not speak to the motives of other members or the Speaker. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, being for life, I want to see transparency and clarity around the circumstances of a baby who's born dead or who dies soon after being born. Mr. Speaker, I know that the family will want to know. But there's a public interest, Mr. Speaker, beyond even the broken-hearted family's understandable need to know what happened. There's a public interest, Mr. Speaker, and that public interest is in protecting the most vulnerable. And these children, these babies, are at the most vulnerable point in life's existence, Mr. Speaker. I want to look out for them. I want to maintain a system in place in our public policy that looks into why these tragic things happen. And yes, if there's foul play afoot, we do have other statute that can handle that. But, Mr. Speaker, if we don't look in the first place, we don't know how other statute might apply. And again, for clarity's purpose, this amendment says that in the scope of this policy point, the investigation would not be used for a criminal prosecution. It's just getting to the facts of what happened, Mr. Speaker. And getting to the facts of what happened in a tragic situation is important not only to the family directly affected by the death of the baby, but to all of us, Mr. Speaker. I am for defending life at its most vulnerable points, and for that reason, I'm voting yes on the amendment, and I ask you to vote yes too. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Bad bill, vote no. Mr. Speaker, transparency, accountability, and clarity are important in our public policy. Mr. Speaker, this bill obscures actions that occur in tragic circumstances. Mr. Speaker, our discussion on the policy point in this bill has been emotional at times. But, Mr. Speaker, we cannot let emotion cloud our judgment on the public policy at question with this proposal. Mr. Speaker, the crime is concealing pregnancy. So a story about a pregnant woman eagerly anticipating the birth of a child is irrelevant to the facts set in this policy point. And I would argue, Mr. Speaker, a conversation about a woman's right to choose abortion is also irrelevant to the facts set in this policy. This is about hiding. It's about furtively obscuring that there was a pregnancy, that there was a baby, and that the baby died. Now, yes, a coroner's investigation or a medical examiner's investigation of such circumstances is hard. But let me draw an analogy in the law, Mr. Speaker. Completing a rape kit is also hard. It makes more difficult a tragic situation. But it is essential to establishing in that circumstance what happened. Allowing a local coroner or medical examiner to investigate a stillbirth or a live birth in which the baby died soon after is essential to determining what happened. This is not about the emotions that we've heard discussed, Mr. Speaker. This is about clarity and transparency in the law and in the facts in a tragic circumstance, Mr. Speaker, especially when the facts are tragic. It's important that we have clarity. To allow those situations, tragic as they are, to be hidden, to be obscured, to be made vague. That doesn't help the baby, that doesn't help the mother, that doesn't help all of us together as a community. There's an old saying, Mr. Speaker, I think you know it. Hard cases make bad law. This is a bad proposal in the law because it's born of the emotions of hard cases. We need to know what happened when tragedy occurs. There's a book I know, Mr. Speaker, that says, put away the works of darkness and put on the armor of light. That's what transparency is about, Mr. Speaker. Put on the armor of light and vote no on the works of darkness.